Imagine this. You're a single father, juggling work, bills, and the overwhelming responsibility of raising a child on your own. Your mornings are a blur of chaos packing lunches, scrambling to find missing shoes, and rushing to drop your daughter off at daycare before your 9 a.m. meeting. But what if, in the midst of that chaos, you made a mistake so small it seemed insignificant at the time, yet it unraveled a chain of events that would change your life forever? What if, one morning, you accidentally dropped your daughter off at the wrong daycare? That's exactly what happened to Michael Carter, a 34-year-old single dad from Chicago. And let me tell you, this isn't just a story about a mix-up. This is a story about how one small mistake led to an unexpected connection, a mystery that kept him questioning everything he thought he knew, and a journey that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does someone even drop their kid off at the wrong daycare? Isn't that, like, Parenting 101? And you're right, it sounds unbelievable. But here's the thing. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. Michael's story isn't just about a dad who messed up. It's about how that mistake opened a door to something he never saw coming. So, let me ask you this. Have you ever made a mistake that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you? Or maybe you've been in a situation where everything seemed to go wrong, but in the end, it led you to something incredible? If you've ever felt like life has a funny way of working itself out, then this story is for you. Here's the deal. By the end of this video, you're going to get answers to questions you didn't even know you had. You're going to meet characters who feel like real people because they are. You're going to feel the tension, the heartbreak, and the hope that Michael experienced. And most importantly, you're going to see how one small moment can change everything. Let's set the scene. It's a crisp autumn morning in Chicago. The kind of morning where the air smells like fallen leaves and freshly brewed coffee. Michael is running late again. His 4-year-old daughter, Emma, is in the back seat, happily singing along to her favorite Disney song. Michael's mind is racing with everything he needs to get done that day. A big presentation at work, a pile of laundry waiting at home, and a stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter. He pulls up to what he thinks is Emma's daycare, gives her a quick kiss on the forehead, and watches as she skips inside, her pink backpack bouncing with every step. He doesn't think twice about it. Why would he? He's been here 100 times before. Except this time, he hasn't. Because here's the twist, this isn't Emma's daycare. It looks almost identical, same color scheme, same layout, even the same cheerful sign out front. But it's not the same place. And Michael doesn't realize his mistake until hours later, when he gets a call from the real daycare wondering why Emma never showed up. Cue the panic. What follows is a whirlwind of emotions, fear, guilt, confusion, and eventually, something Michael never expected: connection. Because the daycare he accidentally enrolled Emma in isn't just any daycare. It's a place with its own secrets, its own stories, and its own people who are about to become a big part of Michael's life. But here's where things get really interesting. As Michael starts to unravel the mystery of how this mix-up happened, he begins to notice little things that don't add up. Why does the daycare director seem so familiar? Why does Emma keep talking about a new friend she made there, a friend no one else seems to know about? And why does Michael feel like he's being watched every time he picks Emma up? I know what you're thinking. This sounds like the start of a thriller movie. And you're not wrong. But this isn't fiction. This is real life. And real life is messy, complicated, and full of surprises. So, here's my promise to you. Stick with me. And by the end of this video, you'll have the answers to all these questions and more. You'll meet the key players in this story: Michael, Emma, the mysterious daycare director, and a few others who play a crucial role in how this all unfolds. You'll feel the tension as Michael tries to piece together what's really going on, and you'll experience the emotional roller coaster of a man who just wants to do right by his daughter. But before we dive into the heart of the story, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like life is just one big puzzle, and you're constantly trying to figure out where the pieces fit? That's exactly how Michael feels. And as you watch this story unfold, you're going to feel it too. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into the story of a single father, a mistaken daycare enrollment, and the unexpected connection that changed everything. But here's the thing, this story doesn't have a neat, tidy ending. In fact, it's just the beginning. Because by the time we get to the end of this video, you're going to be left with one burning question, a question that will keep you thinking long after the screen goes dark. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss what happens next. So, are you ready to find out how one small mistake led to a life-changing connection? Let's get started. End on a cliffhanger. Just as Michael thinks he's starting to figure things out, he receives a mysterious note slipped under his door. It reads, "You're closer than you think. But be careful what you wish for." What does it mean? And who sent it? Stay tuned. Michael Carter's life had always been a balancing act. But ever since his wife, Sarah, passed away 2 years ago, that balance had become a tightrope walk over a canyon. Sarah had been the glue that held their little family together, the one who remembered birthdays, packed the perfect lunches, and somehow always knew how to make Emma laugh even on the toughest days. Without her, Michael felt like he was constantly playing catch-up, trying to fill shoes that were far too big for him. He loved Emma more than anything, but the weight of being both mom and dad was crushing him, one sleepless night at a time. The daycare mix-up wasn't just a mistake. It was a symptom of the chaos that had become his life. Michael had been on autopilot that morning, his mind racing with deadlines and to-do lists. He didn't even notice the subtle differences between the two daycares, the slightly different logo on the sign, the unfamiliar faces in the parking lot, the way the building was just a few blocks farther down the road than he usually went. It wasn't until he got that call from Emma's actual daycare that the reality of his mistake hit him like a punch to the gut. But here's where things started to get strange. When Michael rushed to the wrong daycare to pick up Emma, he was met with a warmth and kindness he hadn't expected. The director, a woman named Claire, greeted him with a calm smile and assured him that Emma was safe and happy. She even invited him to stay for a few minutes to observe the class, and what Michael saw surprised him. The kids were engaged, laughing, and clearly comfortable in their environment. Emma, who had been shy and reserved since her mother's passing, was giggling with a group of children as they built a tower out of blocks. For the first time in months, Michael felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this mistake wasn't such a bad thing after all. But that hope didn't last long. As the days went on, Michael began to notice little things that didn't add up. Claire was always friendly, but there was something about her that felt off. She seemed to know things about Michael and Emma that he hadn't told her, like how Emma loved strawberries, but hated bananas, or how she always slept with a stuffed bunny named Mr. Flops. When Michael asked her about it, Claire just smiled and said, "It's my job to know the kids." But it didn't feel like a job. It felt personal. Then there was Emma's new friend, a little boy named Lucas. Emma talked about him constantly, but when Michael asked Claire about him, she seemed evasive. "Oh, Lucas is one of our quieter kids," she said. "He doesn't interact much with the other children." But that didn't match what Michael had seen. In fact, the more he thought about it, the more he realized he had never actually seen Lucas. He was always just out of sight playing in another room, or napping during pickup time. And then there was the note. The one that showed up under Michael's door one evening, written in neat, looping handwriting, "You're closer than you think. But be careful what you wish for." It was cryptic, unsettling, and it sent a chill down Michael's spine. Who had left it there? And what did it mean? As Michael dug deeper, he began to uncover fragments of a story that didn't make sense. He learned that the daycare had only opened a few months ago, but there was no record of it in any local business directories. The other parents he tried to talk to were polite but distant, almost as if they were hiding something. And then there was the photo, a faded picture he found tucked into a book Emma had brought home from the daycare. It was a group shot of the staff, but one face stood out, a woman who looked eerily like Sarah. Michael's mind raced with possibilities. Was this some kind of elaborate prank? A coincidence? Or was there something more sinister at play? He tried to brush it off to convince himself he was overthinking things, but the pieces kept adding up. The way Claire always seemed to be watching him. The way Emma's behavior had changed since starting at the new daycare. She was happier, more confident, but also more secretive. The way the note had appeared out of nowhere, as if someone had been watching him all along. And then there were the dreams. Michael had started having vivid, unsettling dreams about Sarah. In them, she was always trying to tell him something, but he could never quite make out the words. He would wake up in a cold sweat, his heart pounding, and the feeling that he was missing something important would linger for hours. As the days turned into weeks, Michael found himself torn between two conflicting emotions. On one hand, he was grateful for the positive changes he saw in Emma. She was thriving in ways she hadn't in months, and that was all he had ever wanted. But on the other hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. The daycare felt like a place out of time, a bubble where the rules of the real world didn't apply. And the more he tried to understand it, the more questions he had. What was Claire hiding? Who was Lucas, and why did Emma seem to be the only one who could see him? And most importantly, what did the note mean? You're closer than you think. Closer to what? The truth? Sarah? Or something else entirely? Michael knew he couldn't keep going like this. He needed answers, but every step he took seemed to lead him deeper into the mystery. And then, one evening, as he was putting Emma to bed, she looked up at him with her big, innocent eyes and said something that stopped him in his tracks. "Daddy, do you think Mommy would like my new friends?" The question hit Michael like a ton of bricks. He didn't know how to answer. But as he tucked Emma in and kissed her goodnight, he made a silent promise to himself he would figure out what was going on, no matter what it took. Because one thing was clear, this wasn't just about a mistaken daycare enrollment anymore. This was about something much bigger, something that went beyond logic and reason. And as Michael stood in the dim light of Emma's bedroom, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was standing on the edge of a truth that would change everything. But the question remained, was he ready to face it? On a cliffhanger the next morning, Michael receives another note. This time slipped into his coat pocket. It reads, "The answers you seek are closer than you think. But beware, the truth comes at a price." What price? And who is sending these notes? The mystery deepens. The second note was the tipping point. Michael had tried to convince himself that the first one was a fluke, maybe a prank or a mistake. But this one, found neatly folded in his coat pocket after a routine morning drop-off, was undeniable proof that someone was watching him. The words, "The answers you seek are closer than you think. But beware, the truth comes at a price," echoed in his mind like a warning he couldn't ignore. He felt a mix of fear and determination as he folded the note and tucked it into his wallet, vowing to get to the bottom of whatever was happening. That afternoon, Michael decided to take matters into his own hands. Instead of picking Emma up at the usual time, he left work early and arrived at the daycare an hour before closing. He wanted to observe, to see if he could catch a glimpse of something or someone that might explain the strange occurrences. As he sat in his car across the street, he noticed something odd. The other parents who dropped off and picked up their kids seemed different. They moved with a kind of uniformity, their interactions with Claire polite but distant, almost robotic. None of them lingered or chatted like parents normally would. It was as if they were all following a script, and Michael was the only one who hadn't gotten the memo. When he finally went inside, Claire greeted him with her usual calm smile, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise? Concern? Michael couldn't tell. "You're early today," she said, her tone light but probing. Michael forced a smile and made up an excuse about a slow day at work, but he could feel her watching him as he walked over to Emma. His daughter was sitting at a table, coloring with a group of kids, but when she saw him, her face lit up in a way that made his heart ache. "Daddy!" she exclaimed, running over to hug him. For a moment, everything else faded away. But as they walked to the car, Emma said something that stopped him in his tracks. "Daddy, can Lucas come over for a playdate?" Michael froze. He had never seen Lucas, not once, and yet Emma talked about him like he was her best friend. Maybe another time, sweetheart, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. But tell me more about Lucas. What does he look like? Emma tilted her head, thinking. He's my age, and he has brown hair, and he's really nice. He likes dinosaurs too. Michael nodded, but his mind was racing. Who was this kid, and why had no one else mentioned him? That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the two notes side by side, trying to make sense of them. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that the daycare wasn't just a place, it was a puzzle, and every piece he uncovered only led to more questions. He decided to do something he hadn't done in years. He called Sarah's older sister, Linda. They hadn't spoken much since Sarah's death, but Linda had always been the practical one, the one who could see through the noise and get to the heart of things. When he told her everything, the mix-up, the notes, Claire, Lucas, the photo that looked like Sarah, Linda listened in silence. When he finished, she let out a long breath. Michael, this sounds... I don't even know what to say. But if there's even a chance that this is connected to Sarah, you need to be careful. People don't just look like that by coincidence. And those notes? Someone's messing with you, and I don't like it. Her words only deepened Michael's unease, but they also gave him a strange sense of clarity. He wasn't imagining things. This was real. The next day, Michael decided to confront Claire. He waited until the other parents had left, then walked into her office unannounced. She looked up from her desk, her expression calm but guarded. Michael, what a surprise! Is everything okay? He took a deep breath and decided to go for it. Claire, I need to know what's going on here. The notes, the photo, Lucas, none of this makes sense. And I think you know more than you're telling me. For a moment, Claire just stared at him, her face unreadable. Then she leaned back in her chair and sighed. Michael, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this. But you're right, there are things you don't understand. Things I can't explain. But if you really want answers, you need to be prepared for what you might find. Her words sent a chill down his spine, but he nodded. I'm ready. Claire stood up and walked over to a filing cabinet in the corner of the room. She pulled out a folder and handed it to him. Inside were documents, old newspaper clippings, photographs, and handwritten notes. Michael's hands trembled as he flipped through them. The clippings were about a fire that had happened years ago at a different daycare, one that had tragically claimed the lives of several children. The photos were of the staff and kids who had been there, and one face stood out, Claire. She looked younger, but it was unmistakably her. Michael looked up, his heart pounding. What is this? Claire's expression was somber. That was my first daycare. I lost everything in that fire, my job, my reputation, and most importantly, those kids. When I opened this place, I vowed to make it a safe haven, a place where nothing like that could ever happen again. But sometimes, the past has a way of catching up to us. Michael's mind was reeling. What does this have to do with me? With Emma? Claire hesitated, then said, Your wife, Sarah. She was one of the parents who lost a child in that fire. A little boy named Lucas. The room spun. Michael felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. That's impossible, he whispered. Sarah never told me about any of this. Claire nodded. She was pregnant with Emma at the time and the loss. It broke her. She moved away, changed her name, and started over. But the grief never left her. And now, somehow, it's found its way back to you. Michael's head was spinning with questions, but before he could ask any of them, Claire handed him one last thing, a small, worn stuffed bunny. It was identical to the one Emma slept with every night. This was Lucas's, Claire said softly. He never went anywhere without it. Michael stared at the bunny, his mind racing. Was this why Emma had been drawn to the daycare? Was this why she talked about Lucas like he was real? And if so, what did it mean? As he left the office, clutching the folder and the bunny, Michael felt like he was standing on the edge of a precipice. The answers were closer than ever, but Claire's warning echoed in his mind. The truth comes at a price. And then, as he walked to his car, he saw something that made his blood run cold. Standing at the edge of the playground, barely visible in the fading light, was a little boy with brown hair. Watching him with a solemn expression. It was Lucas. And on a cliffhanger, Michael's phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. It's a photo of Emma taken moments ago with the caption, "She's safe." For now, who sent it? And what do they want? The stakes have never been higher. Michael's heart pounded as he stared at the photo of Emma on his phone. The text beneath it, "She's safe," for now, sent a wave of panic through him. His hands trembled as he dialed Claire's number, but it went straight to voicemail. He sprinted back into the daycare, but the building was eerily empty. The lights were off, the classroom silent, and Claire's office was locked. It was as if the place had been abandoned in an instant. Desperation clawed at him as he rushed back to his car, the stuffed bunny and folder still clutched in his hands. He drove home faster than he should have, his mind racing with possibilities. Who had sent the text? Where was Emma? And why did it feel like he was being pulled deeper into a nightmare he couldn't wake up from? When he arrived home, the house was quiet. Too quiet. He called out for Emma, but there was no response. His chest tightened as he ran from room to room, his fear growing with every empty space he checked. Finally, he burst into her bedroom, and there she was, sitting on her bed, calmly playing with her toys. She looked up at him with a smile. "Daddy, you're home early." Michael sank to his knees, relief flooding through him. "Emma, are you okay? Where were you? I was so worried." She tilted her head, confused. "I was here, Daddy. You dropped me off after school, remember?" Michael's breath caught. He hadn't picked her up from daycare. He hadn't even made it that far. So how was she here? Before he could process what was happening, his phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number, "You're running out of time." The truth is in the bunny. Michael's eyes darted to the stuffed animal he had dropped on the floor. He picked it up, turning it over in his hands, and noticed something he hadn't before, a small, almost invisible seam along its side. With shaking fingers, he tore it open. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age. He unfolded it carefully, his heart pounding as he read the words written in Sarah's handwriting. "If you're reading this, it means you found Lucas. I'm so sorry I never told you about him, Michael. He was our son. He died in the fire, but his spirit never left me. I tried to move on, to start over with you and Emma, but I couldn't. I found Claire's new daycare, and I knew it was a place where Lucas could be at peace. Please take care of Emma. And tell her about her brother. He's always been with her." Michael's vision blurred as the weight of Sarah's words sank in. Lucas wasn't just a figment of Emma's imagination, he was her brother, a child Michael had never known existed. The daycare, Claire, the notes, it all made sense now. Sarah had been trying to protect him from a pain she couldn't bear to relive, but in doing so, she had left behind a mystery that had finally come to light. As he sat there holding the note and the bunny, Michael felt a strange sense of peace. He looked at Emma, who was still playing happily, and realized that she had always known Lucas in her own way. Maybe Sarah had been right. Maybe Lucas had never really left. The next morning, Michael took Emma back to the daycare. Claire was there, waiting for him. She looked at him with a knowing expression, as if she had been expecting this moment. "Did you find what you were looking for?" she asked softly. Michael nodded. "I did. And I think I understand now." Claire smiled, a sad but gentle smile. "Sarah loved you, Michael. And she loved Emma. She just couldn't let go of the past. But now, maybe you can all find peace." As Michael watched Emma run off to play, he felt a sense of closure he hadn't known he needed. The mystery was solved, the questions answered, but the story wasn't over. It was a new beginning, a chance to honor Sarah's memory, to tell Emma about her brother, and to move forward with the knowledge that love, even in the face of loss, never truly dies. But just as he turned to leave, he saw something out of the corner of his eye. Standing at the edge of the playground, barely visible in the morning light, was a little boy with brown hair. He waved at Michael, a small, solemn smile on his face before fading into the sunlight. And in that moment, Michael knew that Lucas would always be with them, watching over his sister, just as Sarah had always watched over him. And sometimes, the past and the present collide in ways that remind us of the power of love, memory, and the connections that bind us together. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales that explore the mysteries of life and the human heart.